Last night, the National Weather Service in Fort Worth issued a severe thunderstorm warning at 9:39 p.m. for Jack County and Palo Pinto County, stating there was a significant threat to property or life. 6 minutes later, another warning dropped for Erath, Johnson, Parker, Hamilton, Comanche, Hill, Somervell, and Bosque counties. At the same time, in Austin and San Antonio, the NWS was warning of torrential rainfall and flash flooding alongside hail. The NWS Houston office issued a severe thunderstorm warning at 9:44 p.m. In North Texas, a level 4 out of 5 severe weather risk was in place, with destructive hail potentially reaching 4 to 5 inches in diameter. Tennis ball hail, 80-mile-per-hour winds, tornadoes. All in the same counties that were torn apart by an EF3 tornado just 2 weeks ago. And now, as Monday begins, this same pattern is taking a serious turn, because what is coming midweek is significantly more dangerous than anything that happened last night. This is Weather Signal. Let us start with what actually happened across Texas last night, because the scale of the warning activity was extraordinary, even by the standards of a season that has already shattered records. Texas storm chasers documented a level 4 out of 5 severe weather risk in place for parts of North Texas and eastern Texoma, including the DFW Metroplex north to the Red River. That is a high-risk designation, the second highest category on the Storm Prediction Center's scale, reserved for situations where forecasters have very high confidence that significant severe weather will occur. The main threat documented by Texas storm chasers was destructive giant hail, potentially up to 4 to 5 inches in diameter with the most intense storms, alongside damaging winds, a few tornadoes, heavy rainfall, and localized flooding. The NWS Fort Worth office confirmed the watch in direct terms that left no room for ambiguity. Damaging winds to 80 millimetrical arcs, hail up to tennis balls, and a couple of tornadoes will all be possible. The severe thunderstorm watch was in effect for western portions of north and central Texas. CBS News Texas reported that the greatest severe weather threat shifted farther west and southwest of the DFW Metroplex as the evening developed, with storms organizing into a line and moving southeast through the night. The atmosphere west and southwest of the Metroplex remained more unstable and less worked over by earlier storms and outflow boundaries, making that corridor the primary zone for large hail and damaging wind activity. The Tornado HQ warning archive for last night tells the story in raw data. Between 9:39 p.m. and 9:50 p.m. CDT on May 10th alone, the NWS Fort Worth office issued back-to-back severe thunderstorm warnings for Somervell and Bosque counties, for Burnett and Lampasas counties, and for Palo Pinto County. The NWS Austin and San Antonio office was simultaneously issuing warnings for Williamson, Caldwell, and Hays counties, with language specifically noting that torrential rainfall is occurring with these storms and may lead to flash flooding. The NWS Houston office issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Matagorda County at 9:44 p.m. Multiple NWS offices were simultaneously issuing life-threatening weather warnings across dozens of Texas counties on a Sunday night in May. That is the operational reality of what happened last night, and it happened in counties that are still conducting damage surveys from the April 23-28 outbreak that produced an EF3 near mineral wells just 2 weeks ago. Before we talk about what is coming this week, the context of what this season has already produced needs to be understood in its full statistical weight, because the numbers are genuinely historic. The NWS Chicago office documented that, as of April 19, 2026, there had been 11 individual thunderstorm events associated with at least one report of severe weather within their forecast area alone, against a historical average of 4. But the most striking number in their analysis is this one. As of April 19th, NWS Chicago had issued 128 severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. That is a record high number through April 19th. Not a record high for an active year, an all-time record high. And the NWS Chicago area had already recorded at least 20 tornadoes by that same date, a number that, in a typical year, represents the entire annual total for their forecast area. Wikipedia's Tornadoes of 2026 page documents the season's confirmed death toll at 12 in the United States, with 15 tornado-related deaths confirmed worldwide, including 2 in India and 1 in Israel. The Wikipedia record of the season documents the march of outbreaks in sequence. A large and long-tracked EF3 tornado passed through the southern portions of Kankakee, Illinois, and the suburb of Aroma Park, damaging over 500 buildings and killing 1 person, before crossing into Indiana and striking Lake Village, where it caused 2 fatalities and damaged an additional 106 buildings. The supercell also produced potentially record-breaking hail, with reports of 5 to 6-inch hailstones in the Kankakee area, which, if confirmed, would break the former Illinois state record of 4, 75-inch diameter hail. Then came the April 13-14 outbreak, producing EF2 tornadoes in Ottawa and Miami counties in Kansas. Then the April 17-18 outbreak with a moderate risk and very large hail up to 3. 5 inches, stretching from northern Oklahoma into southeastern Kansas. Then the April 23-28 sequence with the EF4 in Enid at 175 meteorologists. Then Mississippi on May 6th with its EF3 wedge, 14 tornadoes, and 4 tornado emergencies. World weather. Online described the pattern plainly. This is not just about the violent storm, but about the repeated nature of outbreaks. Communities have little time to clear debris before another round of warning lights up the radar. That description is not rhetorical. It is the literal reality on the ground across North Texas right now, where NWS warning activity last night covered some of the exact same counties that received EF3 damage in the April outbreak. Debris has not been fully cleared, damaged homes have not been fully repaired, and the storms are back. Around Springfield, Missouri, hailstones reached about 5 inches across, large enough to shatter windshields and cause serious injury to anyone caught outside. It was undoubtedly one of the costliest hail events in the city's history. The economic accumulation of this season's damage events is staggering and still being calculated, but the pattern that produced all of it is showing no signs of breaking down. As of this Monday morning, May 12th, the severe weather threat from last night's Texas outbreak is rotating eastward as the cold front that triggered those storms continues its march across the southern United States. The NWS confirmed that isolated severe storms with locally damaging wind gusts and hail are possible from the coastal Carolinas into the Florida Peninsula and along the central Gulf Coast, with heavy rain potentially causing localized areas of flash flooding in the Gulf Coast region. This is the trailing end of the frontal system that produced last night's Texas outbreak. Not a new system, but the same frontal boundary extending southeastward and dragging its severe weather potential with it. A mid-level shortwave trough will move southeastward across the north-central United States on Tuesday, as an associated cold front advances southeastward into the central plains and mid-Mississippi Valley. Ahead of the front, moisture will be somewhat limited with surface dew points in the lower to mid-50s Fahrenheit. As surface temperatures warm during the day Tuesday, instability is expected to develop ahead of the front, with the strongest instability in southeast Kansas and western Missouri, where Melcape could reach the 1,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram range if the more aggressive model solutions pan out. Increasing low-level convergence near the front Tuesday afternoon will likely result in widely spaced convective initiation, with storms expected to move east, southeastward toward the instability axis during the late afternoon and early evening. The SPC was honest about forecast uncertainty for Tuesday, noting a wide range of model solutions concerning instability and the possibility that a warm layer at 700 millibars near the front could limit severe potential. However, if an axis of moderate instability can develop ahead of the front and some storms can become surface-based, a potential exists for isolated severe wind gusts and hail from southeast Kansas into far western Illinois. The geographic footprint of Tuesday's threat, from southeast Kansas through western Illinois, places Kansas City, Springfield, and the broader mid-Missouri region directly in the path of organized severe thunderstorm potential for the third time in 2 weeks. Here's the development that changes the character of this week from active to genuinely alarming. The Storm Prediction Center's Day 4-8 outlook stated this explicitly. An upper-level trough is forecast to move into the eastern United States on Wednesday and become substantially amplified. The word amplified is the key term here. When an upper-level trough amplifies, it deepens, its dip into the lower latitudes becomes more pronounced, the temperature contrast across the trough sharpens, and the atmospheric forcing for thunderstorm development and organization becomes significantly stronger. This is not a weakening system moving through. This is a system that forecasters are explicitly flagging as becoming more powerful as it arrives. Ahead of that amplified trough, enough instability is expected to develop in the Central Appalachians Wednesday afternoon for an isolated severe threat. The Central Appalachians are not a traditional severe weather hotspot, which makes the signal particularly noteworthy. The fact that the SPC is already flagging isolated severe potential in the Central Appalachians at the day 4-8 range tells you that the upper-level dynamics associated with Wednesday's amplified trough are robust enough to overcome the terrain effects that normally suppress convection in mountainous terrain. What this means in plain terms is that people in West Virginia, Western Maryland, and Eastern Tennessee need to be watching the Wednesday forecast carefully. Fox Weather confirmed the broader picture, reporting that severe weather will spread across the Midwest and Great Lakes late Monday before reaching the southern plains and the deep south by midweek. That description of a severe weather corridor marching from the Midwest through the south to the deep south through the course of the week is consistent with an amplifying upper-level trough, driving progressive cold fronts across the eastern half of the country. And NOAA's Climate Prediction Center added the long-range confirmation that validates everything the SPC is seeing in the short-range models. Above-average rain is expected across the southwest and central plains going forward. a signal that the pattern responsible for this week's activity is not a brief anomaly but a persistent atmospheric regime. While tornado coverage dominates the headlines, the hail dimension of this season's storm crisis deserves extended attention because it is producing economic damage on a scale that most people do not appreciate. In 2026, the highest hail risk is expected from Texas to Alabama, with another hotspot around Iowa, northern Missouri, eastern Nebraska, and northeastern Kansas. Last night's level 4, severe weather risk in North Texas, carried a specific threat of hail up to 4 to 5 inches in diameter. That is larger than a baseball, approaching softball size. The hail that fell in Springfield, Missouri earlier this season reached 5 inches. The hailstones reported near Kankakee, Illinois, measured between 5 and 6. 6 inches. Potential state records for the largest hailstone ever recorded in Illinois. To understand what 4 to 5 inch hail actually does, you need to understand the physics. Hailstones of that size fall at terminal velocities exceeding 100 miles per hour. The kinetic energy of a single 4-inch hailstone striking a surface is comparable to being hit by a fast-pitched baseball. But unlike a baseball, hail does not arrive one at a time. A severe hailstorm drops thousands of these projectiles per square meter in a matter of minutes. The result is complete destruction of any exposed vehicle within seconds. Roofing materials are stripped or punctured. Solar panels are shattered. Greenhouses collapse. Crops are obliterated. Aircraft on the ground are rendered unairworthy. And people caught outside without shelter suffer serious injuries from impacts. AccuWeather meteorologist Alex Duffus warned, hail can cause significant property damage, with losses that can top $1 billion when storms hit densely populated areas. When you look at the geographic distribution of last night's level 4 threat, directly over the DFW Metroplex, one of the fastest growing and most densely populated metropolitan areas in the United States, the economic damage potential from a single hailstorm of that caliber is almost incalculable. The Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area has a population exceeding 5 million people. Vehicle registrations in the DFW area number in the millions. A single softball-sized hail event directly over that population center would generate insurance claims exceeding several $1 billion. And the season is producing these threats not once, but repeatedly across the same geographic corridor. Beyond this week's immediate threats, the pattern signal for late May is now firming up in the models, and Fox Weather's reporting on it should be read carefully. After a brief reprieve, a severe weather pattern is expected to return later this month across the plains over the historical Tornado Alley, which stretches from Nebraska south through Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of North Texas. Currently, a large dip in the jet stream is suppressing severe storm development over the plains, but by late May, many long-range forecasts expect that dip to move back over the west. This allows warm air from the Gulf to rush across the plains and fuel storms, similar to the pattern that resulted in the deadly April 23-28 tornado outbreak across the southern plains. The April 23rd and 28 reference is not accidental. That outbreak produced 89 tornadoes with maximum winds of 175 mph from the EF4 in Enid, Oklahoma, the highest winds of any U.S. tornado since June 2025, along with non-tornadic wind gusts reaching 100 mph in Ripley County, Missouri, and the largest hail reaching 75 inches near Elwood, Missouri. Fox Weather is telling us that the atmospheric pattern capable of producing an event of that magnitude is expected to reassemble over traditional Tornado Alley by late May. Long-range forecasts from NOAA's Climate Prediction Center show above-average rain expected across the southwest and central plains. That above-average precipitation signal in the central plains during the height of tornado season is the large-scale fingerprint of a pattern that keeps producing severe weather events. iWeatherNet's analysis of the 2026 tornado season added critical context about what this pattern signal means for communities on the ground. The site noted that 2026 may not rival the extreme tornado counts of 2024 and 2025 on a national scale, but the year has already proven that it only takes one nocturnal wedge in Oklahoma, or a rare early season tornado in Michigan, to turn a near-normal season into a life-changing disaster for the people in its path. That framing is exactly right. The question is never whether the national tornado count is above or below average. The question is whether a tornado hits your community. And with Tornado Alley preparing to fully reignite by late May, and with the season already having demonstrated that violent EF3 and EF4 tornadoes are possible in this pattern, the communities of Oklahoma, Kansas, and North Texas need to be treating the late May period with the same seriousness they gave to the April 23-28 outbreak. One of the most significant stories of the 2026 season is the geographic expansion of serious, severe weather risk beyond the boundaries that communities were historically prepared for. The severe weather map in the U.S. is no longer understood through the old idea of one narrow tornado alley. Traditional tornado-prone states, such as Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, remain highly exposed, but damaging storms are also repeatedly affecting the Midwest, Great Lakes, Mississippi Valley, and the Deep South. The NWS Chicago data proves this concretely. 128 warnings through April 19th, an all-time record for that date in a forecast area that most people associate with lake-effect snow rather than tornado outbreaks. The lower Great Lakes region has been a hotspot for severe weather so far in 2026, with a relatively dense area of reports of tornadoes, damaging winds, and damaging hail. In particular, a corridor from eastern Iowa into southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois has been remarkably active. The Kankakee EF3 that killed 3 people and damaged more than 600 buildings happened in a forecast area that typically sees 10 to 20 tornadoes in an entire year. The May 6th Mississippi EF3 that grew into a 1, 17-mile wedge happened in a state that is not in the traditional core of Tornado Alley. These are not freak occurrences. They are expressions of a pattern that has distributed dangerous, severe weather across a much wider geographic footprint than any single community was prepared for when they built their emergency management infrastructure. AccuWeather meteorologist Alex Duff has stated, "It only takes one storm striking a densely populated or vulnerable community to make this a devastating season." That statement is now being tested across dozens of communities simultaneously, as the same pattern keeps cycling back through the same regions with barely enough time for debris removal between events. For anyone in North Texas, the Gulf Coast, and the Carolinas this morning, the overnight severe weather is transitioning eastward, but residual hazards remain. Flash flooding is a concern wherever last night's storms dropped multiple inches of rain in a short period. Do not drive through standing water on roads this morning. Many of the areas that received heavy rain overnight are in counties with already saturated soils from the April outbreak. Water has nowhere to go, and road flooding can persist for hours after rainfall stops. For communities in southeast Kansas, western Missouri, and the mid-Missouri corridor, Tuesday is your preparation day, not your reaction day. The severe threat on Tuesday is conditional on model solutions that have a wide range of outcomes, meaning the forecast could verify as more significant than currently anticipated if the more aggressive model solutions pan out. Use Monday's relative calm to identify your shelter. Charge your phone fully Monday night. Make sure weather alerts are enabled. If you have a weather radio, put fresh batteries in it today. For the Central Appalachians, West Virginia, Western Maryland, and Eastern Tennessee, Wednesday's amplified upper-level trough is producing a severe weather signal that the SPC has already flagged at the day 4-8 range. That is early flagging for a region that typically does not receive early severe weather signals in the day 4-8 window. Take it seriously. The amplifying trough is the key word. A trough that is becoming more powerful as it arrives is more dangerous than a trough that is weakening, and forecasters are being explicit that Wednesday's system falls into the more powerful category. For the broad Tornado Alley region, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and North Texas, the late May reignition signal from Fox Weather and the CPC should be treated as an active planning horizon right now. The pattern that produced the April 23 to 28 EF4 outbreak is reassembling. You have weeks, not days, to make sure your shelter situation is solid, your family communication plan is in place, and your emergency supplies are stocked. Use that time. This week's storms did not gradually develop into a serious situation. They arrived serious, and they are getting worse as the week progresses. Last night's level 4 risk in North Texas, this morning's Gulf Coast and Carolina threats, Tuesday's Kansas and Missouri setup, Wednesday's amplified trough hitting the Appalachians, and the late May Tornado Alley reignition building on the horizon. This is a forecast that demands your attention every single day this week, not just when a warning drops for your county. Hit subscribe on Weather Signal right now and make sure your notifications are turned on. We are covering every turn of this season in real time, and when this week's midweek amplified trough starts generating new severe weather headlines, you will want to have already seen this forecast so you know exactly why it is happening and what to expect. Share this video with anyone you know in Texas, the Gulf Coast, Kansas, Missouri, the Appalachians, or anywhere else on this week's threat map. In a season this dangerous and this geographically widespread, sharing accurate forecast information is the simplest and most effective thing you can do to help the people around you stay safe. Hit that like button so this forecast reaches more people before Wednesday's system arrives. Weather Signal will keep tracking this pattern for as long as it keeps producing events like the ones we have documented in this video. And based on everything we are seeing in the atmosphere right now, that is going to be a very long time. Stay sheltered, stay informed. We will see you in the next forecast.